the staff of revising the books of Guide for the Perplexed, and that was a good. It was a good history, a good story for them. So thanks for that. It is I'm very happy to be here to see many young people, and it is promising. I mean, most of the things I'm teaching are very difficult to religious people because they stuck on their mind, and Rambam is very revolutionary in its way of thinking. And sometimes it is very hard for people to accept that. You will see that along this shiur. I'm teaching at the Technion for about 100 students. Most of them are Jewish, but there's also Christians, Muslims, Cherkessi, and the people who are very hard to understand the Rambam are mainly the religious one, because they would like to put the Rambam in the templates they are used to, and we will try to see some issues of that. So my main vision was to make Rambam's thought accessible for everyone. That's why I published the book. I did it voluntarily. This is out of my working days. So I published 14 chapters, so 14 books of Mishneh Torah. We will read today some paragraphs from Sefer Zmanim. Sorry for my English, this is not my first language. So, and the second one was Moreh Nevuchim. And now I'm dealing with a series of books around the year. So I published one book about Agadah Pesach, and one book about Purim and Chanukah and Rosh Hashanah. And that's as a complementary to the introduction. We'll start. I would like to tell you a story. Whenever I pick up hitchhikers in my car, I ask them two questions. The first one, they struggle to answer. But the second one, they are really astonished from the question itself. So who can I pick up with my car as a hitchhiker? Does someone would like to join?
From Joe.
Only volunteer yourself.
Don't be shy. It's okay. It's simple questions. Go ahead. Go ahead. What's your name?
Yohai.
Yohai. Okay. I understood that many people here are not from abroad. Yeah, you're from here.
Yeah.
Okay. You're Israel. Okay. So tell me, 20 seconds, not more than that. What have you learned today in Torah, or what have you learned this week? Give me an essence.
Likrat Pesach.
Okay.
Mostly Ta'arovet Chametz, and what you have to do if you're leaving your house before Pesach, and you're not going to come back between Purim and Pesach, so
That's
you have
great.
to do Likrat Chametz.
That's great. You see, it's not a big question. The second question, who would like to participate in the second question? Oh, go ahead. What's your name? Mayan. And you are from here, from Israel? Okay. I Medalia from where? Where from?
Montreal.
Okay. So, but you have to ask the first question first. What have you learned this week? Or what have you learned today or something like that?
I read a Dvar Torah on Shabbat that was about how the Mishkan is related to regular life.
Okay. And now the second question comes. What did you learn from what you have learned to your life? How this is connected to your life?
It's a very profound question.
Yes.
Should I answer?
Yes, of course. Give us something.
I think I don't know if I can articulate it. There was something about the clothes of the Kohanim that I heard the Torah that somebody related also to the clothes that Estelle wore when she went to the Melech, Purim story.
Yes.
And it was like the way that the grammar was written, it wasn't about the clothes she was wearing, it was about how she came. Kiwa Levush was
Yes.
her way of being, and that we can do that in any circumstance, especially if we're in a difficult circumstance. It's our approach, and that's the Levush. I thought that was very nice for what we're going through nationally and personally.
Okay, that's great. In my car, I'm trying to figure out more than that. Okay, how this is really connected? How does it change your way of thinking? Okay, but it's fine. It's great. But most of people can't answer that. Even though they're student, they learn Torah many days, many hours of the in a day, but they hardly can. They can tell me. I've learned in Gemara the discussion between Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva, but it's not related anyway to my life. And they devoting most of their life to something which is not connected to their life. And this is a big mistake or a big miss. And the idea of connecting that to life is not my idea. This is the way Rambam describes Limud Torah. He divides Limud Torah into 3 components. Everyone, it comes from the Talmud, but he divided that. First of all is the Bible, learning the Bible, Torah shebichtav. The second component is Torah shebe'al peh. And the third component is what he calls Talmud. And here comes the point. This is not what we call today Talmud. Talmud is not a name of a book in this context. It is a method of learning. It is how whatever you learn is connected to your life. How do you compare what you have learned to what you encounter in life? How do you conclude what you have learned to situation in your life? But most of the poskim even understood Talmud is the name of the book, and you should pay attention and you should devote most of your life to learning Talmud. The Rambam saw it completely differently. In a way that the Talmud is the creation or the invention of what you have learned to life. Because eventually, the reason that we are learning Torah is to think as a Jew. We're learning Torah to think as a Jew. Whenever we're coping a problem, a situation in our life, we have some guidance in our life that can help us. So the discussion or the conversation between Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Akiva reflects new attitudes to life. And we should understand what is most crucial one. What is in order to understand what is more important. Okay? So the Rambam speaks about that in Hilchot Talmud Torah, chapter 1. And I would like to take this as a basis for our next halachot we will read now, so you can can. You know what? Okay. I don't need.
הרב, יש שאלה על מה שאמרת.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you think that the Rambam would go so far as to say that that would be the translation or the application of Talmud and Mishnah? How they would?
No, not in this one. I mean, Shnai Mikra Chachum is related to the first component. Okay, so I would like someone to read it. I need a volunteer. Who will? What's your name? Ruth. And where you come from?
Made Aliyah from Canada a long time ago.
Okay. So let's see. This is the first halachot in chapter 7 of Hilchot Chametz u'Matzah. Rambam does not call Hilchot Chametz u'Matzah. The equivalent in Shulchan Aruch is Hilchot Pesach. But the Rambam does not mention, call those halachot Hilchot Pesach. Because Pesach is the lamb we should sacrifice in Pesach. And since this is not an issue here, and this is not just a naming convention. Whenever he talks about the terminology, he restored the basic terminology of the halakha. And we will see it later. Okay? So let's talk about the major mitzvah along Lel Haseder. What is the major mitzvah along Lel Haseder? Go ahead.
Should I read in Hebrew?
I think it's in English. I don't know what you're using to. It's no problem. Okay.
מצוות עשה של תורה לספר בניסים ונפלאות שנעשו לאבותינו במצרים בליל 15 בניסן, שנאמר זכור את היום אשר יצאתם ממצרים, כמו שנאמר זכור את יום השבת. ומנין שבליל 15 תלמוד לומר, והגדת לבנך ביום ההוא לאמור בעבור זה, בשעה שיש מצה ומרור מונחים לפניו. ואף על פי שאין לו בן, אפילו חכמים גדולים חייבים לספר ביציאת מצרים, וכל המעריך בדברים שהראו ושהיו הרי זה משובח.
Okay, so mitzvat aseh is to tell the narrative of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And the Rambam gives us from the Talmud the verse, Zachor et hayom hazeh. This is not just to remind, he said, this is like Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. We don't need just to set in mind, but to speak about. Okay? So Zachor it means lehazkir, to mention that, not to remind them. Okay? And the mitzvah is on Lel Haseder. והגדת לבנך. That's why it calls Haggadah. והגדת לבנך. And what I want you to notice, to pay attention, that we're not doing that mitzvah in Lel Haseder. In Lel Haseder we read the Haggadah. But along, I mean, if someone reads the whole Haggadah, he doesn't know the true story. The Haggadah is not the story itself, is not the fact itself. Is the interpretation of the facts. How do you see Yetziat Mitzrayim? But the story is not in the Haggadah. It is in Sefer Shmot. And the story is very important because this night is dedicated for the children, so they can pass and transfer the story, the narrative of our birth, which occurred in Yetziat Mitzrayim, and while we will retell it again and again and again, so people will understand where we came from and where we are ahead. Just a moment. And this is very important, but this is not done along the Haggadah. And we should understand why it is not. Yes.
It's not just the interpretation of the story, it's the application. Every person at the table has to see themselves as being led out of Mitzrayim. It's
Okay,
a personal, experiential recreation or
Of course.
reenactment.
Of course.
That's the highest, example of what you're saying, how it applies to you.
Yes,
The
yes.
physical reality almost.
Oh, yes. What's your name?
Philippe.
Philip. Philip?
Look.
Locke. Okay.
Look.
Okay.
Look.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we will talk on that later, but this is not a part of the Haggadah. This is part of your existence there, your presence there.
Well, it's in the Haggadah. It's part of the...
It's written in the Haggadah. But the simple story is not in the Haggadah. And whenever I organize Lel Haseder, I stop the whole Haggadah and I tell the children the simple story of the Haggadah. It takes about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not more than that.
You read it
But
from
they
the
have
Chumash?
what?
You read it from the Chumash or do you tell it?
I wrote it in my Haggadah as a sample. Okay, but this is just an inspiration. You can write. I just wanted to put the simple story of that, and this is very important. There were years where I took aside the children and spoke to them while everybody was continuing, because this is the main purpose of this night. To say the simple things to.
It's a leading question probably, but do you feel the Haggadah intentionally did not want to say?
No, this is not intentionally, because the Haggadah explains you what are the interpretation of the facts, but not the facts itself.
Does it try to avoid the
No,
story
this is not
by
trying
quoting
to avoid.
Dvarim and not quoting
No,
Shema?
Haggadah is a wise text for advanced people, but not for the simple.
It assumes you already know.
I will see that. We will read the next paragraph. The Rambam said how to example that, but it's not part of the Haggadah. Okay. It's not part of the text of the Haggadah. Okay, so let's see how the Rambam says. So I would like to take a new volunteer for that. Go ahead. What's your name? And where are you from? Okay.
מצווה להודיע לבנים ואפילו לא שאלו שנאמר ויגעת לבנך. לפי דעתו של בן אביו. כיצד? אם היה קטן וטיפש, אומר לו, כולנו היינו עבדים כמו שפחה זו אוהב את זה במצרים. ובלילה הזה חדר אותנו הקדוש ברוך הוא ויוצאנו מחירות. ואם היה בן גדול וחכם, מודיעו מה שאירע לנו במצרים, ונושאים שנעשו לנו על ידי משה רבינו, הכל לפי דעתו של בן.
Okay. So the Rambam says how to, he demonstrates that, how can you explain that revivally. And I would like to give you some tip, the way I manage the Seder. A week before the Lel Haseder, I send each one of the Mesubim, my children, or my family, or my guests, one page from the Haggadah, and I tell them to prepare that page, to read that page, to explain it, and to say how this is connected to your life. And this is very important. Very important from any other Dvar Torah or anything else. How did you learn from this text to cope, or have you ever experienced something in this text that helped you to cope with difficulties in your life? Anything that you have to cope with, and it should be 2 minutes, not more than that. But this is very impressive. This is a very impressive process that people really understand, and this is the halakha itself. It says in the halakha, as already we have talked here. ובכל דור ודור, just a moment. ובכל דור ודור, in every generation, and one must show himself. This is the nusach in the Rambam, the version in Rambam, or to see himself. But the Rambam says leharot et atzmo, as if he is exiled from Egypt. And to show yourself is to express, to share your feeling with that. And every one of you, think of that, every one of you has something he can share with other people. How he coped with things that the Yetziat Mitzrayim can talk to us in various ways. And this is I really encourage you to do that along the Seder. So the Rambam said everyone should show himself, and let's see the text in the Rambam. So if he was tipesh, he was foolish, he says to him, we were all slaves like this slave or something like that. And if he was wise, he explains him what I have done in Mitzrayim by Moses and all the miracles that have done. What is the main difference in the Rambam? Please see the text itself. What is the main difference between the foolish child or the clever one? According to the text itself, the Rambam. This is very fascinating phrasing of the Rambam of the differences between Tipesh and Chacham.
It mentions the Kadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe.
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Mara. If he was foolish, can you speak to him? Explain.
No,
That one to the foolish son you say that God took us out of Egypt, and to the clever son you say that Moshe took us out of Egypt.
To the foolish one, he said we should tell him whatever God has made us. And for the clever one, he tells him what Moses has done. And this is paradoxically, we think of that on the contrary. Okay, if he is foolish, tell him about Moses. But if he is clever, tell him that God made everything. So, what do you think the reason for that? Yes, what's your name?
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan.
The clever child will understand that God was behind Moses' leadership.
Okay.
So you don't need to state that because the child is clever enough to figure it out.
Yes.
Or it causes him to ask a question. Or it causes him to ask a question.
Yes, just to ask a question. Okay. One more. Yes.
What you answered the Chacham, it's not really Moses took it. See, these are the laws that Moses told us how to enact what we did, right? This is it doesn't talk about the Yeshua. Moshe is the law is what you do, and the wise are supposed to infer from that several steps, and then relate it in a chain of transmission. For the simple son, it's black and white. God took us out. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
It also says al yedei Moshe. It doesn't say she'asa Moshe. It's not that Moshe. You're saying Moshe did the miracle.
Okay,
took
of
us out
course.
It's through Moshe.
But the figure is Moshe.
Yeah, but it's al yedei. Like
Okay.
the terminology is important.
Any more ideas?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Shia.
Yes, Shia.
For the simple son who, or I guess it's easier to speak on the wiser son first, that he has the ability to understand the role that he has to play in sort of the narrative. So focusing on how it went through man teaches him that he has to be active in the world, while the simple son who can't understand that, it's okay to see it on.
Yes, I think I will combine everything, but the major thing is that you have to, when you're clever, you have to understand that you have to be proactive, and Moses was proactive in that. Not everything. Moses was coping with really difficulties along the way. There's not everything was done just by God. This is for simple kids, okay, to understand that everything was miracles but Moses really coped with the task with the mission of getting out the Israelis from Egypt. And this is a very hard lesson. So, okay, and we should and the reason I wanted to emphasize that is because I wanted. Can you give me a copy of the?
It doesn't say Moshe for the Hachal.
Yes, I know. The reason that I have that. Sorry, I have that in the book itself, and so everybody can see that. Okay. Just a moment.
It says Hashem. Page 11.
So the reason, what I wanted to show here, is that the Haggadah has a flow. And we have to understand, if we're clever, we have to understand the flow of the Haggadah. And if we understand the flow of the Haggadah, we understand the process of getting out of Egypt. We can feel much more, we can understand the insights from the demand that we will feel as if we got out of Egypt. So the Haggadah has, and this is very important. I mean, along the years, I took a big page with my kids, and I draw a line of the Haggadah. And whenever I host guests, I tell them, okay, friends, we have the Seudah here, and we have a long, long way until the Seudah. So get relaxed, okay? And when they see the whole process, they are relaxed. and I will try to walk along this flow, that you will understand what is the process of the Haggadah. But before that I would like to share with you one or two more halachot. See the last halacha in the next page. Seder asiyot mitzvot elu. Okay. Who volunteer for reading that?
סדר עשיית מצוות אלו בליל 15 כך הוא. בתחילה מוזגים כוס לכל אחד ואחד ומברך בורא פרי הגף. ואומר עליו קידוש היום וזמן ושותה.
This is the first phase, okay?
ואחר כך מברך על נטילת ידיים ונוטל ידיו. ומביאים לשולחן ערוך והרב הוא וירק אחד ומצה וחרוסת וגופו של כבש הפסח ובשר החגיגה של יום 14. ובזמן הזה מביאים על השולחן שני מיני בשר, אחד זכר לפסח ואחד זכר לחגיגה.
So Rambam said a set table is brought, and on that table there is maror, another vegetable, matzah, charoset, and the body of the Paschal lamb. But these days there is no Paschal lamb, so we bring two types of meat, or zroa vebetzah, zroa and egg. But I want you to understand what Rambam says here. Rambam says, posek, what is the order of how do I prepare the table? And he says, what is the original order? And then he said, these days we have two types of meats. Why? This is very extraordinary. You will not find it in any, I think in almost any Sefer Halacha, a book of Halacha today. How do I prepare the table? You will see only what we should do today. There is no one mentioned that at the middle of the table there should be the Paschal lamb. But the Rambam says that. Why? Why he arranged those halachot in this order?
Maybe so that we understand the original version.
Why do we have to understand the original order, the original version?
To know why we do what we do.
What we should do is the second order. I mean, in these days, tell me what should they do.
That's the story.
Yes, but in this chapter, he explained how to arrange the table. So what do we need? We're not doing that today. So why he brings that at first?
Because the korbanot of the Pesach and the Chagiga are also part of the story. Like Rambam's assumption is all these mitzvot that we're doing of Lel Haseder somehow are connected with the Veigat Mincha.
But we're not doing that today.
Yeah, but in order to be able to know to tell the story, we still need to know what should be because it's a part of the story, which is also why we say Kol Shelo Amar Pesach Matzah Maror.
That's great. But none of the books of Halakha today does it in that way.
But in the Rambam in general,
yes,
like
yes. This is the difference. Yes, that's the difference.
The same as we finished our slavery in Egypt and the Exodus was finished. The same our Galut will finish and we will have the temple and Korbanot again.
Yes, of course. So, but I would like to phrase it in this way. Everybody teach you what to do. Rambam teach you what to think. And I want you, I mean, the Rambam says, I want you to remind you the big dream. I want to remind you the vision of Lel Haseder. What we are doing is just part of it. This is not the holistic view of Lel Haseder. Okay? And that was the reason I built my Haggadah, as you will see now, that it will be relevant to these days and to the day to come when temple will be. So I'll give you an example, and you will understand the intent of this one. Okay, let's go back to the 4 questions of Manishtana. What is different? Okay. Manishtana alayla ze mikol halot. What is the change of this night relative to all other nights? At all other nights we are eating chametz and matzah, and this night is matzah only. This phrase, this verse is part of the question. It's not part of the answer. People understand that this is part of the answer. But we will see later what are the answers to these questions. So there are actually 5 Manishtana. Today we have only 4 of them. And the 5th one, which is the second in this order, Shebechol Halot, in every night, so we are eating meat in various types, and this night is grill only. It's all grill. And you will not find that in any other Haggadah, because we're not doing that.
It's in the mission, right?
Yes, of course. And the reason that I made it, because I want people to understand what we're missing today. The situation of the Lel Haseder is not completely, is not holistic today. And someone told me that using that Haggadah, he was confused. Reading, he started to sing that song, that verse, and he understood that at the middle of it, this is not the one. I told him, okay, that was the intent. It was really the intent. I want you to remember. I don't want you to omit the dream. So the Rambam understand that, and I think that this is why, after the big 2,000 years of diaspora, we can revive the thought of the Rambam, the way of thinking, because he keeps the original terminology. He keeps the original ideas. questions about that before we continue?
Wasn't there only 4 questions for the Rambam? They answered them, though they substituted the one to recline instead of no?
No, there were 5.
There were 5?
There were 5s, yes. And the answers... יש עם הזקה?
לא.
Okay.
יש משהו שנשמע קצת.
Okay. So these are the 4 questions of Manishtana. And there are 2 answers to this Manishtana. First of all, we were slaves, Avadim Ayinu. And the first redemption was a physical redemption. The second was spiritual redemption. And these are the 2 answers in the Haggadah. Okay, the first one is there was a physical redemption, Avadim Ayinu leParo b'Mitzrayim, and the second one, we got the Torah. But this was just the second phase, not just the second redemption, but the second phase of the redemption. And that is the flow of the Haggadah. And then we talk about the Arbat HaBanim, and eventually we talk about V'hi She'amda. And V'hi She'amda is a very existential paragraph. Exactly as everyone should feel as if he got out of Egypt. We are not just celebrating what was, we are celebrating it now. And this year, more than ever. And year before, even more than that. Okay? And we should understand that this is the moment that we are reviving our exile from Egypt. And every year, every generation is trying to kill us and diminish us. And we have to understand that. We have to take something, some messages from the Lel Haseder to the whole year. And one of these messages is the story of Parashat HaBikurim. So, Parashat HaBikurim is a set of a big paragraph or a big section which people do not understand what's going on there. So I decompose it to 4 phases, but actually there are 5 phases in this Arami Oved Avi. Arami Oved Avi is the story that one who brings Bikurim to the temple, he tells a very concise paragraph of history to his of the nation life. But the 5th verse is omitted in all Aggadot, and in ancient versions of Aggadot it was. And the Rambam says that you should interpret by Midrash even the 5th one. And what is the 5th one that we omit in all Aggadot? Because all Aggadot were written were edited in diaspora. Vayvi'enu el hamakom hazeh, and God bring us to this place, and He gave us this land, Eretz Zavat Chola B'Dvash, the land of milk and honey. And this is very important. But in most Aggadot, they omit that. All Aggadot are Galutiot. And I think this is very important for each of you more than for me, because you really make Aliyah. You really cope with the difficulties and whatever is connected to make Aliyah. To live the families, to live the jobs, to live life, to live friends. And the Haggadah, the 5th verse of this paragraph is very important. So I wrote for the 5th the Midrash of this. Vayvi'enu el hamakom hazeh, and God gave us this land. Vayvi'enu el hamakom hazeh, this is the temple. God gave us this country, this land, this is Eretz Israel. בשכר ביתנו, אל המקום הזה נתן לנו את הארץ הזאת. I would like someone to translate that and explain what is the meaning of this verse. Any volunteer? Go ahead. Okay. We'd like to give more chances to other people. Go ahead. Yes.
I'm going to try. In exchange for us coming to this place, and I read it, you wrote it on the 2 rows above.
Yes.
That you mean the temple. In exchange for us to come to the temple, I think in Passover, in Pesach, and in Shavuos, and in Sukkot, He gave us in return this land, the land of Israel. I don't understand why, so I trying to explain, but I don't understand what we gave to Him and what He gave to us back.
But okay, but what is the meaning b'schar be'atenu in the why do we need the temple in order to gain Eretz Israel? That's what this means. Why do we need the temple? Why do we need Jerusalem in order to gain Eretz Israel? There's no Eretz Israel without Jerusalem. Actually, this is the real meaning, the original meaning of Zion. Zion is Jerusalem, is the temple. So what is the meaning of that text? What is, yes, go ahead.
I mean, you can view sort of the base of Mikdash as sort of accepting of God's kingship, authority.
Raise your
you can, that's the concept of the base of Mikdash is accepting sort of God's dominion, and that like without that acceptance or like there's no point.
Okay. Yes.
Perhaps because God said, "Build me the temple so that I would dwell among you."
Okay.
So we need it in order for God's presence to be more with us.
Another opinion?
It might have to do with the yearning.
You have to?
It might have to do with the yearning of the feet.
Yes.
I mean, this is
We have to
2,000 years of Galut view, but like a post Galut view, but
I want you to remember the dream.
But if the dream or if the yearning was Beit HaMikdash or Har HaMoriah or Yerushalayim, then that's how we get for that is the country we didn't want.
Yes, I agree with that. We have to understand the dream. We have to understand what we are doing that for, and I think this is one of the major difficulties, even to Israelis today. Most of the Jewish, even the religious one, are comfortable with the fact that Muslims are in the temple. The Muslims are in the temple now, mount, and it saves the Jewish people to cope with what we are doing with this place. We don't have to think of right now, and it's great for us. We don't know what to do with this place, and it's just a ridiculous state of mind. It's an astonishing state of mind because we don't know how to cope with that. We don't understand what this place is for. What kind of institution? We don't need sacrifices today. We don't feel. But besides it's a place for sacrifices, this place has other intent, other ideas behind this. This is the place where all Jews were encountered. It was the place of Mifgash. This is the place where the holiness was, and we will talk about what holiness is. This is the place where there were no levels of ma'amadot, stages between other peoples. This is the place where the Supreme Court, the Sanhedrin, was lying. This is the place where the king was coming to, and gathered the whole people in Vayakhel and reads them the whole Torah. So this place is much more than Korbanot. And the reason that we're not how can I say that in a simple words? We cannot have any perception, true perception of this place is a big miss. And I want you to understand that. I will not now solve all the problems of this, but I want you to invite you to think what this place is for us. So that is the fifth one, and I think that if I told you to take a page and tell something about your life and the struggling to overcome making aliyah, this is a great place to be. And so
Can I ask something?
yes.
If I go deeper and trying to understand, there was also Sanhedrin in Alexandria, in Egypt, and there was also a king that sat in Hebron.
There was also what?
But there was also a king, King David was also, I don't remember how many years, like 7 years he sat in Hebron. And I'm trying to understand what makes this place, what makes Jerusalem the most valuable, the most important place, because, and I agree with you, but I'm trying to explain myself, and maybe I improve what you're trying to say.
Okay. This is the same question as why do we need Israel as a place, as a land for Jewish people? Jews can live all around the world, but there is a meaning to a place. We're not just abstract human beings.
No, that's
okay?
true, but why specifically the land of Israel? There is a sentence in the Tanakh that says, "Eretz asher Hashem Elokecha ba."
Yes.
Asher Hashem anei Elokeh, asher Hashem Elokecha ba.
Yes. There is, okay, you're getting into a very deepest discussion. I would not like to devote the lesson to that, but it has. I just gave you there is a reason why we need a place, a major place for Jerusalem, and why we need Eretz Israel as a real place. But I would like to mention another idea. The Haggadah was written 2,000 years ago, or actually 1,500 years ago. And it was a miraculous event getting out of Egypt. But these days, the existence of the state of Israel is much more miraculous than Yetziat Mitzrayim. And I'm not the one who says that. Jeremiah the prophet said that. So let's read it. אמר להם בן זומא לחכמים, בן זומא said to the sages, וכי מזכירים יציאת מצרים לימות המשיח, do we have to recall יציאת מצרים for the end of history, to the ימות המשיח? והלא כבר נאמר, הנה ימים באים נאום השם, maybe someone can read it and translate that better than me. On the fly. Can someone read it and translate that?
I can try.
Okay.
אמר להם בן זומא לחכמים, וכי מזכירים יציאת מצרים לימות המשיח? Ben Zoma asks the sages, will we still have to be telling this story when Mashiach comes, והלא כבר נאמר, הנה ימים באים נאום אדוני, ולא יאמרו עוד חי אדוני אשר העלה את בני ישראל מארץ מצרים. כי אם חי אדוני אשר העלה ואשר הביא את זרע בית ישראל מארץ הצפון ומכל הארצות אשר התדחתים שם וישובו אדוני. So Ben Zoma says, I don't know if we'll need to say this when Mashiach comes, because we have the Psukim in Yirmiyahu, where it says there will one day be a day where no more will we say, oh, God is great for bringing the people out of the people of Israel out of Egypt, but God is great for bringing the people from all across the world back to Eretz Israel, to return to their country.
Yes, that's great. And they told him not to
אמרו לו, לא שתעקר יציאת מצרים במקומה, אלא שתראה שעבוד מלכות.
עיקר.
ויציאת מצרים תפל. So the sages replied to Ben Zoma, it's not that יציאת מצרים will be removed or stop being told, but that the main story we will then say is that we are now sovereign, or that we are no longer enslaved or under somebody else's rule, and Yetziat Mitzrayim will be a secondary story.
Yes. So the major event is the independence of Israel of state. It's the state of Israel, the sovereignty of this state. And Yetziat Mitzrayim is a secondary event. And this is really amazing. This is fascinating. We got out of Egypt 200 years of slavery. But we got to Israel after 2,000 years of exile. We got out of Egypt from one country, but we came to Israel from 100 countries. This is much more a miraculous event and fascinating. We cannot celebrate Yetziat Mitzrayim and feel as if we don't thank and understand what the state of Israel today and how privileged us to be in this state. In this state, it's and every one of you, each one of you, who had made Aliyah, it's really, I'm really excited from that. I don't know if I could. It was hard to me to move apartment. Okay, and it took me 10 years just to move from Haifa to Kdumim. Okay, with my family, and this is really a miraculous event. So pay attention to that. Tell us that story of Aliyah on the table of Lel Haseder. This is an opportunity to understand what is Yetziat Mitzrayim. And I gave you just a little ideas from how we should celebrate Lel Haseder in a different and enhanced way than we are doing that. This is not just what we have done 2,000 years of history. This Lel Haseder should be an existential event where each one of us, understand what are the miraculous and fascinating state that we are in. And this is what I would like you to, not just to think of, but to take as a point to dream. But we have not finished the whole dream. We have a big way. And I would like to conclude you. I didn't mention the whole process, the whole flow of the Haggadah. But I would like you to take 5 concepts from the Haggadah. I concluded in the final pages of this Haggadah. And I would like you to think, what do you think of? So the first one is the freedom. And what freedom is? What is the definition of freedom? What is the concept of freedom? What is the concept of freedom? What is the freedom?
Self-determination.
Self-determination, okay. To what? To do anything?
To choose, and presumably choose responsibly.
Okay, to choose responsibly, yes.
I want to say the ability to choose.
The ability to choose, to use drugs, for example.
It's a freedom. I mean,
it's freedom. God gave us the options.
So what is freedom?
As he said, we should want to choose correctly, but
people don't.
But we got freedom. It's not Gan Eden, right? We have. I think it's about the Toverah, no?
Yes. Okay.
So it's good in Hebrew. It's
in Hebrew the word cherut has a similar sound like achrayut. This is very connected.
Responsibility.
Responsibility. Yes. So the freedom is to fulfill with responsibility what your life should be fulfilled with. And where do you see that in the Lel Haseder? Where do you see that implementation, that application of the cherut in Lel Haseder?
The Asava, where we...
Asava, okay. Where more? To tell your story, okay. The 4 cups of wine.
And also the
4 cups of wine, which means you should be in a good mood. That's the reason. Okay?
Also the Kol Dichfin that we're giving.
Of course.
Like mod.
Okay. The second concept along the Haggadah is that, let's see that. The second question is the loyalty. Where do you see the loyalty in this Haggadah, in this Lel Haseder? Where do you see the application of loyalty in Lel Haseder?
God to Israel.
God to Israel, okay, and vice versa, Israel to God. Yes, and what's more?
Maybe as a counterbalance to the freedom aspect of that you can go off and go crazy with telling your story, but like keeping some connection.
Loyalty.
Also to the next generation.
To the next generation. We have a tradition, and we continue the tradition. We continue that in a very loyal way. According to the liberal attitudes, and I'm teaching political philosophy at the Technion, your responsibilities are all emerged from your choices, from your free choices. And if something was given you, I mean, there is no dilemma for a pure liberal one if he has not chosen the situation where he is. And we as Jews, we feel loyalty to every Jew in the world. We didn't choose that. We didn't accept that. This is a given situation. And even though we are very loyal. So this is the second concept. The third concept is the holiness. Where do you see the holiness? Where do you see the holiness? Korban, okay. What's more? What is holiness? What is holiness?
Uniqueness, like making something special.
Making something special.
Setting apart.
What?
Setting apart.
Setting apart. Okay.
So is ostracism.
Let me. What do you say?
So is ostracism.
Okay. Let me give you an example. I would like to understand this term. Suppose your father. Okay, I will talk about my father soon. Suppose my father is sick, and blessed he, and he calls me and tells me, my son, I need to go to the hospital, so I need a taxi. I call a taxi, and it cost me 100 shekels. And I tell him, Father, I will do it in 50 shekels for you. We both win-win situation. What do you think of it? What?
No, that's awful.
Oh, for that? Why? Everybody wins. I got 50 shekels. He pays only 50 shekels, not the 100.
There's a time to win.
What is awful in that? It's awful. And I agree, but I would like you to understand what is awful in that.
This is someone who has dedicated a portion of his life to you and not asked for anything in return. And like there's literally, and the fact that like someone is thinking, why would you like manipulate a situation in which they're weak?
I'm not manipulating. I'm making you a discount because you're my father. I give you 50% discount.
You wouldn't have had to go to the hospital. You wouldn't have had to take a cab if you wasn't feeling.
But what is the point? I would like to talk about holiness.
If it wasn't your father,
I would like to talk about holiness, about sacred things. What is sacred things? Sacred things are things that cannot be converted to anything else. You cannot convert relationship with your father to financial issues. This is the point. There's some things in life which I cannot convert with money. No matter how much they will pay me, I will not work on Shabbat. This is sacred for me. The relation with my daughter, with my wife, with the person I will not convert them for anything. This is what Passover tells us. There is something we will not convert for anything. Okay. The happiness or joy, where do you see that? Along the Lel Haseder?
Singing?
No.
All around.
All around. What's all around?
The drinking, the eating, the together, the kids.
I would like to say that this is the most thing is togetherness. We're doing that. Of course, everything is, but we're doing that together. We're not doing that by ourselves. And that's the reason why we gather together in this day. But there is a fifth kind. Okay? And from the time I understood these things, I never missed the fifth cup. I drink the fifth cup, as Rambam says. Okay, and especially when I feel this is really a Geulah, the days of Geulah. And the fifth cup is, and the fifth cup is the hope. Okay, I told you we can go all along the Lel Haseder, all along the Haggadah, and the structure is 4 plus 1, and the plus 1 is not existed. It is not present these days, but there is a hope for that. And this hope is the reason we are here. This hope is what I would, or we would like to take from this Lel Haseder to the whole year. So this is the fifth one, and I just pick things really to give you some invitation to think of, opportunities to think of that, and to prepare yourself. Because if we would like to have a very meaningful night at Lel Haseder, we have to prepare for that. And that's I would like to encourage you to do. That's why I would like you to think about the things that I invited you for, and to tell your story. So that's all. Thank you very much.
הרב דוקטור מקבילי, תודה רבה לך. אתה התחלת את הדרך שלנו לקראת פסח. You've started our path towards Pesach this year. This is our first Pesach shiur of the year.
That's
עוד
great.
יבוא בהמשך. ותודה רבה רבה. וזכות גדול. Anybody who would like to purchase the Haggadah in that corner, if you didn't see, I also sent the link to the digital version in the group as well. So תודה רבה רבה.
Thank you very much. Anyone who would like to ask me some questions or privately,